In America today, one of the most profitable businesses isn't Silicon Valley, Wall Street, or Hollywood. It's student debt. More than 45 million Americans are shackled to over $1.7 trillion in loans, a number so massive it's larger than the GDP of most countries. But here's the shocking truth. This wasn't some accident or a side effect of rising costs. The student loan crisis was designed. A system that was supposed to open doors to education quietly transformed into one of the most powerful debt traps in modern history. Welcome to Trillion Dollar Empire, your guide to wealth, power, and the secrets of the financial elite. What you're about to learn will change how you look at education, money, and even the American dream itself. Because student debt isn't just about college, it's about control. It's about how a nation decided to fund its future on borrowed money and how a trillion-dollar industry was born out of the backs of young people. Stick around until the end, because I'll reveal one hidden truth about how your debt doesn't just affect you, it actually helps fuel America's global financial power. The story begins after World War II, when the GI Bill gave returning veterans free college education and created a generation of prosperity. America looked at education as the key to upward mobility, the golden ticket that could transform working-class kids into professionals. By the 1960s, the government wanted to expand this access, but instead of directly paying colleges, it built a system of loans. On the surface, it looked like generosity. Everyone can afford an education if they borrow, but beneath the surface, it was a deal with consequences. Students were now shouldering the costs, while universities and lenders collected the benefits. Once loans became widely available, colleges realized something. They could raise tuition year after year, and students would still pay because the government was guaranteeing the money. In 1980, the average cost of public university tuition was around $3,500 a year, inflation adjusted. Today, it's more than triple that, with private schools charging even more. The luxury campuses you see, climbing walls, Olympic swimming pools, football stadiums, weren't built from thin air. They were built on student debt. Students essentially funded billion-dollar facilities with money they hadn't even earned yet. And then came the banks. Unlike mortgages or car loans, student loans are nearly impossible to escape. You can declare bankruptcy, lose your home, even walk away from credit card debt, but student loans follow you forever. For lenders, this is the perfect product. Guaranteed repayment, backed by the government, with interest compounding for decades. For students, it's a chain that can last a lifetime. The ultra-rich know the truth. When you can't erase a debt, the debt owns you. Loan servicers entered the picture next, companies hired to manage repayments. Their business model isn't to help you succeed, it's to profit when you struggle. Late fees, confusing payment plans, and interest capitalization all mean one thing. The longer you're stuck, the more they make. It's not a glitch, it's the design. Debt became not just an obligation, but a business model. Meanwhile, politicians began weaving student debt into their campaigns. Every few years, promises of relief are made, but little changes. Why? Because the system is too profitable. Behind those monthly payments are banks, investors, and powerful lobbies. Politicians know this money feeds Wall Street, strengthens the dollar, and fuels the very financial markets that keep America running. And here's a hidden mechanism few people talk about. Student loans are bundled and sold as securities, just like mortgages were before the 2008 crash. Your loan isn't just your problem, it's someone else's investment. Wall Street slices and trades billions in student loan portfolios, betting on your ability to keep paying for 10, 20, or even 30 years. You think you're just sending money to a servicer, but in reality, your debt is being traded like a commodity. For investors, it's steady profit. For you, it's a lifelong expense. The design of the system makes forgiveness nearly impossible. Unlike other debts, student loans can't usually be wiped away in bankruptcy court. Even if you lose your job, face illness, or fall into financial ruin, your student loans stick with you. That's why they're seen as one of the safest bets in finance. And that's why millions of borrowers feel like they're running a race they can never win. This debt trap doesn't just affect wallets, it changes lives. Entire generations delay buying homes, starting families, or investing for retirement because they're too busy servicing student loans. The average American carries debt well into their 40s and 50s. When young people are drowning in payments, they don't build wealth. They rent longer, postpone milestones, and remain financially fragile. And in a system where control matters, debt becomes the leash. When people are struggling, they're easier to manage, easier to direct, and less likely to challenge the system itself. Colleges, meanwhile, act like luxury brands. They sell prestige, rankings, and status symbols, convincing families to take out massive loans for the promise of success. But many graduates leave with degrees that don't guarantee jobs, facing decades of repayment. It's the classic bait and switch. Pay today for a dream tomorrow, while the real winners are the institutions that cashed the checks. And here's the cruel irony: wealthy families don't play this game. They pay up front, debt-free, while their kids graduate unshackled. Meanwhile, middle and lower-class students borrow heavily, starting their adult lives already behind. This widens the wealth gap, ensuring the rich stay rich while others spend decades climbing out of a hole. Debt becomes less about education and more about reinforcing inequality. And if you think missing payments gives you freedom, think again. Default brings in debt collectors, agencies that can garnish wages, seize tax refunds, and destroy credit scores. For-profit collection companies make billions squeezing borrowers, ensuring that even failure is profitable for someone else. The system sells you the illusion of choice. Take a loan, invest in yourself, it'll pay off. But for many, it's less a choice and more a forced ticket into the job market. Degrees are marketed as essential, and loans are the gatekeepers. And like every casino, the house always wins. So who truly profits? Colleges with inflated tuition, banks and servicers with endless interest, politicians with power, investors with securities tied to your payments. Even the US government, which uses loan repayments to strengthen its own financial position. And who loses? Millions of Americans stuck in cycles of payment, unable to escape, unable to build, unable to truly own their futures. The ultra-rich know the real difference. They use debt strategically to buy real estate, companies, or investments that generate income. They borrow, but their debt works for them. Students, on the other hand, borrow to survive, paying back for decades without gaining assets. One group uses debt as a ladder, the other drags it like an anchor. And here's the bonus secret for those who stayed until the end. Did you know that some major US companies quietly prefer employees with student debt? Studies show that indebted workers are less likely to quit risky jobs, less likely to start businesses, and more likely to accept lower wages because they can't afford to lose stability. In other words, student loans don't just fund colleges, they create a more obedient workforce. So what have we learned? That US student loans weren't just about making college affordable. They became one of the most profitable industries in America. A system where colleges raise prices without limit, banks collect interest for decades, politicians profit from promises, and Wall Street grows richer trading your debt like a stock. Forgiveness is rare, bankruptcy won't save you, and every monthly payment you make fuels someone else's fortune. The ultra-rich understand what most students never realize. Money itself doesn't care where it comes from, only how it's used. They borrow to build empires. Too many students borrow just to survive. Here's my challenge to you. The next time you hear that education is priceless, ask yourself, priceless for whom? For the student working decades to pay it off, or for the system making billions from their struggle? Because the hidden agenda of student loans was never about knowledge, it was always about control. And as always, trillion-dollar empire, we keep upgrading your life. If you love this episode, don't forget to click the subscribe button, like and share. See you on the next one.